The immeasurable calamity was indeed something. Hanju checked his interpersonal relationships. Most of his friends' cultivation levels were increasing. This included most of the immortals of the Heavenly Court. He couldn't help but be curious. Didn't the Heavenly Court experience many calamities? They should be very strong. Could it be that most of the immortals had died in the calamity? Hanju looked at his immortal friends in the interpersonal relationships, and his eyes filled with pity. These people would all become cannon fodder. A month later, he continued to cultivate. The negative karma outside the island surged towards Hidden Sect Island, forming a huge vortex. What was worth mentioning was that the interior of Hidden Sect Island was already becoming larger and larger. There was an ocean around the island. It was the yellow spring water that he had absorbed in the netherworld. As the Tao field increased in size, it formed a vast sea that occupied an area larger than the reroll world. The disciples of the Hidden Sect would occasionally test their mystical powers above the yellow spring. The Fusong tree had already grown to tens of thousands of feet tall. It was truly a divine tree. The current Tao field could be said to be a world of its own. Flowers even began to grow on the desolate land on the island. It was quite magical. Perhaps as Hanju became stronger, the Tao field would become a huge plain like the 33 levels of heaven. Hanju was looking forward to it. Days passed. In the blink of an eye. Another 10 years passed. Hanju's cultivation level increased again. However, the deity realm was vast. If he wanted to break through, he needed to accumulate for a long time. Hanju didn't have high goals, either. He just had to break through to the second level in 1,000 years. This way, he had a chance to reach the Zenith Heaven realm in 10,000 years. At that time, the immeasurable calamity might not be over yet. Fellow Taoist, can we have a chat? A cold voice suddenly resounded throughout Hidden Sect Island, startling everyone. Hanju opened his eyes and checked the surrounding enemies. There were no enemies. Wait! Could it be? Hanju seemed to have thought of something and stood up. Master, was that voice calling you? Tao Comprehension Sword asked curiously. She wouldn't be so nervous anymore. From the other party's words, he was clearly very afraid of Hanju, so he was very polite. Hanju hesitated for a moment and said, "Tell the others to cultivate in peace." With that, he closed his eyes and spread his divine sense out, quickly rushing in the direction of the voice. Soon, he saw the primordial Yuan Phoenix. It was this fellow who contacted Hanju. Probably because of the negative karma vortex around Hidden Sect Island, the primordial Yuan Phoenix was looking for him to seek help. In the darkness, the primordial Yuan Phoenix was like the source of all evil. It was unfathomable and terrifying. Hanju asked, "What's the matter?" The primordial Yuan Phoenix's voice floated out, "I can see that you are absorbing negative karma. You're truly impressive. You want me to help you?" "That's right. What can I get? If I let you out, will you find trouble with me? There is no enmity between us. Why would I harm you? If you save me, I will owe you my life. If you are in danger in the future, I will definitely help you." "Alright, but I'm still cultivating my mystical power and can't come over to help you." "Wait a little longer." "How long do I have to wait?" 100,000 years. "Alright." The ancient Yuan Phoenix sounded pleasantly surprised. Hanju was speechless. It seemed that this fellow had been imprisoned for too long and did not take 100,000 years as much time. Hanju said seriously, "Yes, that's settled. Fellow Taoist, wait patiently. Primordial Yuan Phoenix has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 3 stars. Thank you, fellow Taoist." Hearing the primordial Yuan Phoenix's thanks, Hanju didn't reply and retracted his divine sense. Inside the Khanate cave abode, Tao Comprehension Sword had already left the cave abode. Hanju opened his eyes and fell into deep thought. Although the primordial Yuan Phoenix had discovered the Tao field, this fellow clearly could not move. Since that was the case, he would ignore him for the time being. Hanju isolated the cave abode and didn't let Dao Comprehension Sword return. He took out the Book of Misfortune and started cursing while checking his emails. The war between the Heavenly Court, the Demon Court, and the Jie School had already begun. Even Huang Zuantian was attacked by demons. Hanju was wondering if he should take this opportunity to kill the Demon Emperor. He was afraid that after the Demon Court was destroyed, the Heavenly Court would become everyone's target. If the Heavenly Court was attacked by various forces, that would not be a good thing. Hanju didn't expect the Heavenly Court to win, he only hoped that they could survive. He would wait a little longer. Hanju thought silently. In his heart, Zhu Tu was a greater threat than the Demon Emperor. Dao Field Guard has been successfully copied. Please name it. Hanju raised his eyebrows when he saw a line of words suddenly appear in front of him. Hanju thought silently, Lu Bu. Immediately after, purple light burst out from his eyes and landed in front of him, condensing into a figure. It was Zhu Tu. To be precise, it was Lu Bu who looked exactly like Zhu Tu. Lu Bu knelt down on one knee and cupped his fists. Greetings, Dao Lord. Dao Ancestor, Yi. Hanju subconsciously heard wrong and immediately understood. Lord of the Dao Field. Yes, go out and find a place to stay, Hanju instructed. He had previously learned from the system that the Dao Field Guard was like a puppet without intelligence. Its thought patterns were to protect the Dao Field and listen to all his arrangements. Lu Bu immediately stood up and left. After walking out of the Khanate cave abode, everyone turned to look at him. Because his aura was too terrifying. Who is that person? The Black Hell Demon Lord frowned. He felt that it looked familiar. Diamond Rage was shocked. Divine Palace's Zhu Tu. How is that possible? The others were surprised. Who was Zhu Tu? Lu Bu ignored them and jumped down to the sea. Hanju's voice sounded, his name is Lu Bu. From now on, he will guard the Dao Field. You don't have to disturb him. He also needs to cultivate. He was afraid that the disciples would deliberately strike up a conversation and find out. The disciples were in an uproar. They couldn't help but think of the previous voice. Could it be that this person called Hanju and came to pay respects? It was very likely. The disciples sat together and discussed. With Lu Bu around, Hanju immediately relaxed. Even if Zhu Tu came personally, he could forget about killing him. Hanju smiled. This was the cultivation place he wanted. It was absolutely safe and had abundant immortal qi. Divine Palace. Zhu Tu, who was meditating, suddenly opened his eyes and frowned. He pinched his fingers to deduce and frowned again. What's going on? Why do I feel uneasy? The more Zhu Tu thought about it, the more uneasy he became. He felt that something big was about to happen. No, I have to go to the 33rd heaven to ask. Nothing can go wrong with this calamity. Zhu Tu stood up and rushed out of the Divine Palace. Several breaths later, he arrived outside the 33rd level and stopped in front of Niwa Imperial Palace. He knelt down and looked up at the gate, then asked, Sage, I have something to ask of you. A cold voice came from Niwa Palace. The calamity has begun. You can only rely on yourself. Zhu Tu looked up and asked, What should I do if there's karma beyond the calamity? Impossible. Sage, please help me deduce it. Zhu Tu said firmly with a burning gaze. 1. Lord and ancestor sounds similar in Chinese. Several hours passed. The cold voice floated out of the palace again. The anomaly you spoke of is part of the calamity. Go back. Part of the calamity? Zhu Tu frowned, not understanding what this meant. Since it was part of the calamity, why did it make him uneasy? He was already the strongest in the calamity. He fought for Providence and momentum. Could it be that the uneasiness came from the Dark Forbidden Lord? The Dark Forbidden had appeared? Zhu Tu hurriedly stood up, bowed, and left. Time passed quickly. 50 years passed quickly. Hanju's cultivation time had returned to normal. It was ordinary and boring. He cursed the enemy every 10 years. His usual joy was probably from reading the emails. In the past few decades, Han Ming had already successfully reincarnated. In this life, his talent was monstrous. He had just been born and was already at the loose immortal realm. He was almost comparable to the Golden Crow Divine Clan. Some of Hanju's immortal god friends died one after another. It could be seen that the heavenly court's plan to invade the demon court was not smooth. Sigh. Some of his friends were gone before he even met them. Hanju watched as his friends' icons disappeared one after another, feeling inexplicably sad. It was unknown how many old friends he'd have by the time he reached the end of the Great Tao. Cultivation was a lone peak. The higher one went, the narrower it became, until only one person could stand at the top. On this day, Hanju walked out of the cave abode and came to the Fusong tree. After so many years, the Fusong tree had been growing, but it was still far from maturing. The mature Fusong tree could connect to the myriad worlds in the world, like a space-time hub. Hanju had always been looking forward to that day. The Fusong tree shook again. Hanju smiled and said, "That fellow in the Nine Nether Purgatory has already reached an agreement with me. He won't harm you. Don't worry, don't be nervous." The Fusong tree said carefully, "It's not in the Nine Nether Purgatory, but outside." Outside? Hanju showed a frown. He spread his divine sense towards the exit of the Nine Nether Purgatory. Soon, he discovered that the exit of the Nine Nether Purgatory was shrinking. Someone was repairing the barrier and wanted to isolate the Nine Nether Purgatory from the Netherworld again. Hanju frowned and hesitated. Should he stop it? Stop my ass. Didn't I hide in here to avoid the calamity? It was a good thing that someone was repairing it. It was to prevent the enemy from breaking in again. After Hanju thought it through, he waited and watched. A figure suddenly appeared in the dark void. When Hanju saw this figure, his expression couldn't help but become strange. This fellow... Pan-Xin. Pan-Xin turned around and cast a spell with both hands. Vast dermic powers spread out, repairing the barrier between the two worlds. Why did this fellow escape? Pan-Xin seemed to have sensed something and snorted coldly. Yo! I didn't expect that there's still someone hiding in the Nine Nether Purgatory like me. Fellow Taoist, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't provoke me and don't try to open the barrier. Hanju remained silent. Pan-Xin was suddenly moved and said in surprise, "This aura seems to be." He widened his eyes and shouted, "Brat! You actually reached the deity realm. How is that possible?" Hearing this, Hanju could only say helplessly, "Senior, long time no see. Are you being hunted down?" Hunted? Nonsense! Who dares to hunt me down? Then, why are you here? Can I enter seclusion? Since it's you, I'm relieved. Don't go out before the calamity ends, alright? That's exactly my intention. Where are you? Why can't I deduce your location? Facing Pan-Xin's doubts, Hanju grew silent. He didn't know if he should bring Pan-Xin into the Dao field. No! He couldn't take the risk. There was no knowing what others were thinking. Although Pan-Xin had a favorable impression of him, the two of them were not close. Hanju replied, "I'm also in seclusion. Senior, rest early. I'll continue cultivating." With that, he retracted his divine sense. To prevent his location from being exposed, Hanju controlled Hidden Sect Island to move away. In a flash, he covered millions of miles and disappeared without a trace. Pan-Xin was stunned on the spot and thought to himself, could it be that this kid is also being hunted down? He was amused. He didn't expect another person to have the same thought as him, hiding in the most dangerous place. No! I have to find this kid. I want to see where he's hiding. Pan-Xin's appearance caused Hanju to no longer dare to absorb the negative karma in the Nine Nether Purgatory. He continued to utilize the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. He would first absorb the negative karma in the lotus. The 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus had accumulated several calamities of negative karma. It would be very difficult for Hanju to suck it dry. Even if he could, it would take an extremely long time. From then on, Hanju often felt Pan-Xian's divine sense sweep past Hidden Insect Island. Why was this fellow looking for him? Did he have bad intentions? Hanju almost took out the Book of Misfortune, but he was afraid of exposing his identity. Perhaps Pan-Xian didn't have any ill intentions. After searching for a few years, Pan-Xian gave up and found a place to cultivate. The 9 nether purgatory fell silent again. Another 30 years passed. While cultivating, Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and cursed the enemy while checking his emails. Your good friend Heavenly Emperor was attacked by your enemy Demon Emperor. Your good friend Li Daokong was attacked by a mighty figure. Your good friend Huang Zuntian was attacked by a demon race Immortal Emperor and was severely injured. Fortunately, your good friend Divine General saved him. Your good friend Zhou Fan devoured negative karma ghosts and developed mental demons. Your good friend Ji Xianshan was attacked by demons, X310229. Your disciple Long Hao encountered the attack of your enemy Demon Emperor. His body was destroyed and his soul was suppressed. Your good friend Dao Sovereign has comprehended a chaotic mystical power. His cultivation has increased greatly. The Heavenly Emperor and the Demon Emperor fought? Was this an act or a complete fallout? Hanju looked down. When he saw Long Hao being killed, his expression changed drastically. He still liked Long Hao. After all, he had watched this kid grow up. Damn Demon Emperor! You attacked my majesty and killed my disciple. You're courting death. Hanju immediately increased the curse on the Demon Emperor. 5 days later, Hanju's lifespan began to decrease. In order to prevent Long Hao from dying, Hanju decided to curse the Demon Emperor until he developed a problem. Otherwise, there would be more trouble in the future. He stared at his attributes panel and controlled the speed at which his lifespan decreased. On the other side, the Demon Emperor sat on the steps, his body wrapped in a strange black aura. His head kept trembling. He was in a strange state, and he did not know why. Boom! The Demon Emperor suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and his body quickly weakened. Damn you, Dark Forbidden Lord! I've already expressed my goodwill, but you still... The Demon Emperor cursed angrily, but before he could finish, another powerful curse attacked. He was shocked and furious. How could the curse of the Dark Forbidden Lord be so powerful? What kind of Dharma treasure was this fellow using? Was it draining his dermic powers? Even a curse with dermic powers should not have such an effect. The Demon Emperor's expression changed drastically. The dermic powers in his body began to stir as a strange voice sounded in his ears. The revival of the demons depends on you. Can you withstand it? Does the Demon Court really have a chance to surpass the Heavenly Court? The Heavenly Court has the help of the Tao sect. What does the Demon Court have? Those sages are biased and clearly want to destroy the demons. Why? The voice of his mental demon. The Demon Emperor gritted his teeth and tried his best to ignore the mental demon's voice. However, it only grew louder. Someone is cursing him, just like me earlier. A voice sounded in Long Hao's ears. Long Hao snorted. You deserved it. Who asked you to possess me? This voice was Hao Tian. Hao Tian's soul shrank in the depths of Long Hao's soul, unable to be removed. Hao Tian said angrily, Brat, can't I help you become stronger? Now, we're being targeted by that whatever Dark Forbidden Lord guy. It won't be good in the future. Long Hao secretly asked in surprise, is the Dark Forbidden Lord really that powerful? Even you, the strongest Heavenly Emperor, can't do anything? If I recover my cultivation, I won't be afraid of him. Unfortunately, what will happen to the Demon Emperor? Will he follow in the footsteps of the Heavenly Tao Buddha? Hao Tian's tone was solemn. He was clearly afraid of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Boom! The Demon Emperor's body exploded and blood splattered across the hall. A black soul that looked like the figure of a beast twisted wantonly, looking terrifying. Terrifying dermic powers wreaked havoc in the hall. Long Hao's oil lamp also shook violently. Everything in the hall shook like a huge earthquake. The Demon Emperor's killing intent erupted, causing Long Hao to be terrified. Is this the Zenith Heaven realm? Long Hao was secretly shocked. Although he was already a Grand Unity Golden Immortal, facing a Zenith Heaven cultivator, he felt as tiny as a worm. Hao Tian suddenly shouted, "Be careful! He can't withstand his dermic powers anymore. He's going to explode!" Explode? Long Hao was shocked. The Demon Emperor suddenly roared, "Dark Forbidden Lord! I will definitely not let you go. As long as there is a chance of survival, I will definitely kill my way back. Demons, listen up. The Dark Forbidden Lord plotted to harm the Providence of the demons. He's the eternal enemy of the demons. We won't rest until he's dead." This voice resounded throughout the myriad worlds. Even the hidden sect in the Nine Nether Purgatory could hear it. The disciples of the hidden sect were speechless. The Dark Forbidden Lord is really strong. Even the Demon Emperor has been harmed. The Black Hell Demon Lord sighed. He knew best how strong the Demon Emperor was. In the Demon Court, the Demon Emperor was extremely domineering. Almost all of them were defeated and subdued. Diamond Rage sighed. I wonder who the Dark Forbidden Lord is. All the disciples were curious about the Dark Forbidden Lord. They felt that in this calamity, the strongest was the Dark Forbidden Lord. Dao Comprehension Sword fell into deep thought as she glanced at the Khanate Cave abode. At the same time, inside the Khanate Cave abode, Hanju's face was covered in blood and his eyes were bloodshot. He had already lost more than 13 billion years of his lifespan. Why isn't this fellow dead yet? Because of your curse, your enemy Demon Emperor had his mental demons wreak havoc. His dermic powers went berserk and he couldn't withstand the turmoil. His monstrous negative karma began to wreak havoc. His soul exploded and he died. The image of the Demon Emperor vanished. Hanju immediately stopped. He exhaled. He was finally dead. Fortunately, the Demon Emperor had slaughtered too many lives and was covered in negative karma. Otherwise, Hanju would really not be able to curse him to death. It seemed that negative karma was really dangerous for those who entered the calamity. Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune and started to recuperate and adjust his state. Once the Demon Emperor died, the Demon Court would definitely be in chaos. This was the Heavenly Court's chance. It was up to the Heavenly Court now. A month later, Hanju finished cursing the other enemies and continued cultivating. Although the Book of Misfortune was powerful, he couldn't rely on it too much. He still had to try his best to become stronger. Heavenly Court, Numinous Palace, Gathering of Gods. Both the Immortals and the cultivators of the Tao sect were very excited. The Demon Emperor had actually perished. The Martial God General sighed. This Dark Forbidden Lord is too strong. Will he become an enemy of the Heavenly Court? Jing Tiandong said, not necessarily. If he wants to fight for Providence, he should enter the calamity. Otherwise, if he hides in the dark and curses, it will also be giving Providence to others. It's a waste of effort. I think he has a greater goal. Perhaps it's not limited to fighting for power. The Immortals rolled their eyes. They had interacted with each other for a period of time and knew that Jing Tiangong worshipped the Dark Forbidden Lord and was hopeless. At this moment, a heavenly soldier rushed in and shouted, "Report the Demon Court's army has dispersed." The Heavenly Emperor stood up and laughed. Very good. Immortal gods, listen up. Raise your troops and attack the demons. I want to completely disband the Demon Court in 100 years. On the other side, West Heaven. In a grand temple, the Divine Might Buddha gathered with the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Arhats. Divine Might Buddha said expressionlessly, "Haven't you found the Dark Forbidden Lord yet?" Although the death of the Heavenly Tao Buddha infuriated the Buddhist sect, they didn't dare to hate the Dark Forbidden Lord. It was only because the Heavenly Tao Buddha was transformed from a corpse of the devil ancestor that he could be said to be a spy. This matter embarrassed the Buddhist sect, causing them to not dare to pursue the matter. The entire immortal world was mocking and questioning them. A Buddha said, "Other than the divine palaces due to pretending to be the Dark Forbidden Lord, there are also the Dark Forbidden Lord, the ancient races, and so on. On the surface, there are no less than 100 Dark Forbidden Lords. It's impossible to tell for the time being. There were too many Dark Forbidden Lords. Ever since the death of the Heavenly Tao Buddha, the believers of the Dark Forbidden Lord had appeared in the immortal world like bamboo shoots after the rain. They developed separately and spread throughout the immortal world, showing signs of success." Divine Might Buddha asked, "Is the Heavenly Court affected by the Dark Forbidden Lord?" "Yes, including the Heavenly Emperor. He's often cursed, but we can't tell if he's really being cursed by the Dark Forbidden Lord," replied a Bodhisattva. The Divine Might Buddha sighed. The situation became more and more chaotic. He had been in seclusion for so many years and was not very familiar with the situation in the immortal world. Now, an unknown new figure had appeared. He had a headache. "No, I have to gather the other Buddhas," Divine Might Buddha thought to himself. 10 years later, while cultivating, Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and cursed while checking his emails. "Your good friend Long Hao has obtained the inheritance of a mysterious mighty figure. He has learned the Heavenly Tao mystical power and his cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Huang Zuantian was attacked by Jia school cultivators, X407. Your good friend Ji Xianshan has obtained Demon Emperor origin and his cultivation has increased greatly. Your grand disciple Fang Liang obtained the Demon Emperor Supreme Treasure. His providence has increased greatly. Your good friend Heavenly Emperor was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Tao Sovereign dreamed of meeting a sage. After some guidance, his cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Empress Hutu has left the netherworld. Your good friend Tai Su Tian jumped into the river of destiny and reincarnated. Could the mysterious mighty figure that Long Hao encountered be Hao Tian?" Thinking about it carefully, Long Hao and Hao Tian were a little like the relationship between a fantasy protagonist and an old grandpa. If they couldn't be separated, perhaps Hao Tian would be Long Hao's fortuitous encounter. Ji Xianshan and Fang Liang were tied together? Why did they keep hanging around together? Hanju was still most concerned about Tao Sovereign. The word sage was truly blinding. Didn't they say that the sages wouldn't interfere in the immeasurable calamity? Hanju couldn't help but tense up. The calamity that the sages participated in could be said to be devastating. Previously, when the two worlds were inverted, it was because of a sage. Hanju looked down. Suddenly feeling something, his expression changed slightly. He put down the Book of Misfortune and scanned with his divine sense. A large number of living beings appeared in an area of the nine nether purgatory. These living beings were like humans and magi, with men and women. They gathered together and seemed to be very noisy. The aura of reincarnation. Empress Hutu. Could these living beings be created by Empress Hutu? Why are you here? A female voice entered Hanju's ears. It was similar to Meng Po's, but it was younger and more beautiful. Hanju knew that his divine sense had been exposed, so he asked, "Senior Mengpa?" "Mengpa is already dead. You can call me Empress Hutu." Empress Hutu's tone was very gentle without any arrogance. Inexplicably no longer nervous, Hanju said, "So it's Empress Hutu. It's truly my honor to meet you." Her cultivation level was still unknown. "How many people from my Magus race are with you?" Empress Hutu's voice sounded again. The two of them were communicating with their divine sense. Other than them, no one else could hear them. Hanju replied, "Two. You want to see them?" "No need. I'm just asking. These are members of my newly created race." What do you think the name should be? Empress Huta asked with a smile. Her tone was casual, and Hanju inevitably felt close to her. He couldn't help but be wary. The more amicable she was, the more dangerous it was. What if Empress Huta suddenly attacked him one day? Hanju took a deep breath and said, "This matter should naturally be decided by you. How can I cross the line?" "It's fine. Go ahead. I'll see if it's suitable." Hanju remained silent. How ridiculous. Was she trying to tie him to this new race? If Hanju named them, he would definitely have karma with this race in the future. But if he rejected, wouldn't that offend Empress Hutu? "Didn't you say you would be my backing? Why do you want to harm me?" Hanju was dissatisfied with Empress Hutu and felt that she was not nice. At this moment, Empress Hutu smiled and said, "Are you still afraid of being tainted by karma? You cultivate the Tao of reincarnation. I created the cycle of reincarnation. The karma between you and me has actually been buried long ago. Why do you need to differentiate between us?" Hanju asked, "What relationship do you have with immortal Emperor Samsara? He's only a child who has gone astray. A long time ago, I established the cycle of reincarnation. After the cycle of reincarnation was born, a trace of life appeared. That trace of life developed into him. However, he was very strong. He had always wanted to escape the cycle of reincarnation and dominate reincarnation. After so many years, I don't know what he wants or what he's doing." Empress Huta's answer shocked Hanju. In that case, immortal Emperor Samsara was equivalent to Empress Huta's son? Hanju pinched his fingers to deduce and discovered that he indeed had karma with Samsara. This was the profundity of karma. After reaching the Emperor realm, one could deduce clues. After reaching the deity realm, one could even deduce all the karma related to them unless the karma involved an even stronger existence. Hanju and the Tao of reincarnation did have karma. In that case, there was indeed no need to worry. Hanju said in a low voice, "Why don't we call them the Nether race? They will live in the 9 Nether purgatory for a long time. They won't enter the calamity or the world." Not entering the calamity. Not entering the world. He had deliberately mentioned these 2 points. This was the original intention of this name. If the Nether race went against the original intention of this name in the future, the heavenly Tao would judge them, and he might have a way to get rid of them. Empress Hutu smiled and said, "Sure. From now on, they will be called the Nether race. The Nether race will not enter the calamity and will not enter the world. If they disobey, the heavens will destroy them." Boom! Thunderclouds appeared above the fiends. It was the heavenly Tao thundercloud. Hanju was secretly shocked. He didn't expect Empress Hutu to be so decisive. It seemed that the lesson of the Magus race was too deep, causing Empress Hutu to be very afraid. At this moment, thunderclouds also appeared in the sky above Hidden Sect Island. Hanju's expression changed. Crap! His location was being exposed. Diately controlled the Hidden Sect Island to escape, but the heavenly Tao thundercloud followed closely behind. Wherever the Hidden Sect Island went, it followed. Its speed was not slow at all, as if they were one. Hanju quickly gave up. The heavenly Tao thundercloud parted, and a golden light descended. It directly penetrated the Tao Field's array formation and landed on the Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain. It pierced through the stone, but it didn't cause any damage. Finally, it landed on Hanju. The disciples under the Fusong tree were stunned. Heavenly Tao merit! How is that possible? The Black Hell Demon Lord widened his eyes in shock. Diamond Rage and Duan Hongqun were both moved. Chu Shuren frowned and muttered, "What did he do?" Morochi asked in surprise, "The legendary Heavenly Tao merit? Hasn't Grandmaster always been in the cave abode? How can he do something like that?" The other disciples were curious. The Heavenly Tao merit sounded very powerful. At the same time, Hanju was in the Heavenly Tao merit. He was so nervous at first that he thought he was going to die. Unexpectedly, the golden light was warm, causing his cultivation level to increase. Detected that this is your first time obtaining Heavenly Tao merit. You have the following choices. 1. Absorb the Heavenly Tao merit and become controlled by the Heavenly Tao. You can obtain a mystical power inheritance. 2. Suppress the Heavenly Tao merit and use it for yourself. You can obtain a Great Tao fragment. Hanju widened his eyes. He hurriedly stopped transforming the Heavenly Tao merit into his cultivation. He projected them into the world of stars and sealed them. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. Could this Heavenly Tao merit be because he had given the nether race a name? Wow! It was probably very difficult for ordinary living beings to resist the Heavenly Tao merit. It was truly exaggerated to convert the merit into cultivation level. It was better than many years of bitter cultivation. If he completely absorbed the Heavenly Tao merit, Hanju felt that he might directly break through to the two mystic divine origin realm. However, he didn't want to become a subordinate of the Heavenly Tao. Looking at the Heavenly Tao Buddha, he was probably controlled by the Heavenly Tao. Because he had too much negative karma, he was judged by the Heavenly Tao as an anomaly, so he was killed. Hanju guessed that negative karma was related to the Heavenly Tao. 5 minutes later, Hanju finally suppressed this Heavenly Tao merit and stored it in his sea of stars. He scanned the nether race with his divine sense and said, "Thank you, Empress. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to obtain this merit." Empress Huta smiled and said, "It's fine. In the future, the nether race will stay in the 9 nether purgatory. I hope you can take care of them. Don't worry, I'll visit them often. Currently, there's no threat in the 9 nether purgatory. I've already greeted that primordial Yuan Phoenix. There's also another fellow, although he's roaming free, he's quite timid. The reckless coward should be Pen Xian." Hanju asked curiously, "Is the Heavenly Tao merit very useful?" Of course. Most sages rely on merit to ascend, including some Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals. Empress Huta's answer made Hanju sigh. The system was indeed from the primordial chaos and was superior to all living beings in the Heavenly Tao. By relying on merit to become a sage, he might be above all living beings, but he would also be controlled by the Heavenly Tao and be unable to escape. If the Heavenly Tao was destroyed, the sages would be destroyed. Therefore, they had no choice but to defend the Heavenly Tao. It had to be said that the will of the Heavenly Tao was very terrifying. It didn't have the intelligence of a living being. It wouldn't target a certain person. But its will was the highest and could not be altered. The more Hanju thought about it, the more terrified he became. For some reason, he felt that at the end of the cultivation path, he might become an enemy of the Heavenly Tao. If he wanted to truly transcend, he would definitely have to be invincible. He would definitely not be controlled by the Heavenly Tao. Just like how mortals couldn't imagine what was outside the universe. When strength reached the limit, it was absolutely impossible to differentiate between high and low. Sages were omnipotent and undying. How strong were existences that surpassed them? Even Hanju couldn't imagine it. Hanju asked curiously, "Is there no mighty figure who doesn't rely on merit to attain the Tao?" "Yes, you have the aura of the Tao of Karma on you. You must have been to the great ultimate hall beyond the 33rd level. Ancestor Shitian is the one." Empress Huta's answer shocked Hanju. Was Ancestor Shitian that impressive? Hanju asked, "What about the Tao Ancestor?" Empress Huta smiled and said, "Tao Ancestor? That's definitely the top existence in cultivation. A long time ago, he fused with the Heavenly Tao. He has not appeared for the last 5 immeasurable calamities. His traces are difficult to track even for sages." Hanju was even more curious about the Tao Ancestor now. He hadn't appeared for the last 5 immeasurable calamities, so how did the Heavenly Emperor meet the Tao Ancestor? Could it be that the Heavenly Emperor had never seen him before, but the inheritance of the Heavenly Court let him know that they had the backing of the Tao Ancestor? It was very likely. Hanju always felt that the Heavenly Emperor had a habit of bragging and was often slapped in the face. Before the calamity began, the Heavenly Emperor had boasted several times that he wanted to destroy the demon court and the Jie school. In the end, he had turned enemies into friends. Do you want to come out and meet them? Empress Hutu asked. Hanju replied, forget it. Let them cultivate well. I don't expect much. All right, that's all. If the Nine Nether Purgatory is in trouble, I'll help. Don't worry. After Empress Hutu said that, her aura completely vanished. Hanju retracted his divine sense and fell into deep thought. This event was very meaningful. This was the first time Hanju came into contact with the existence of the heavenly Tao merit. It also gave him a preliminary understanding of the sages and the heavenly Tao. At this moment, a loud laugh sounded. Brat, I've finally found you. Let's see if you can still hide. Boom! The formation of Hidden Sect Island was attacked. The attacker was Pan-Xian. Pan-Xian actually wanted to barge in. Hanju was furious. Was there something wrong with this fellow? With a thought, he immediately sent Lu Bu to try his luck. In the dark void, Pan-Xian kept waving his hand at a stone when a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. It was Lu Bu. Pan-Xian widened his eyes and suddenly retreated. His expression darkened as he gritted his teeth. Zhu Tu, why are you here? Lu Bu was expressionless. Without another word, he attacked. Two vast dermic powers collided, shaking the void of the Nine Nether Purgatory. It stirred endless negative karma and swayed like a dragon. Pan-Xian shouted, "You're actually hiding here. I'm not playing with you anymore." With that, he fled. Hanju was speechless. This fellow was really timid. Hanju had used the simulation trial to copy Pan-Xian's cultivation. After confirming that he had really escaped, he called Lu Bu back and started the simulation trial himself. He fought Pan-Xian. He wanted to assess his strength. With the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus, Pan-Xian couldn't break through the defense of the Heavenly Tao Supreme Treasure, but he could still injure Hanju by penetrating it. Several minutes later, the defense of the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus shattered and Hanju was insta-killed. Huh. This fellow should be stronger than Zhu Tu. He could be part of the first row of listeners in the Great Ultimate Hall. But why was he so afraid of Zhu Tu? Was it because he was timid, or did Zhu Tu have another background? Hanju felt that it was the latter. He had deduced the future. Zhu Tu was related to the person from Niwa Imperial Palace and was probably supported by it. New SD rise at Nivel bin. Co-thinking of this, Hanju discovered that he hadn't used the derivation function for a long time. So be it. I want to know who the greatest winner of this immeasurable calamity is. Hanju thought in his heart that after the calamity ended, there would definitely be more than one person who would win. There might be allies, subordinates, and so on. It could be said that when one person obtained the Tao, all his friends would ascend to the heavens. 1 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? So much? Hanju silently chose to continue. Then, he felt dizzy. When Hanju opened his eyes again, he saw the future sky. There were green mountains and rivers around him, and the scenery was as beautiful as a painting. He heaved a sigh of relief. Compared to the previous apocalyptic scenes, this was undoubtedly wonderful. It seemed that he had succeeded in saving the world. Oh, everyone! Do you know what the Dark Forbidden Lord you despise did for you? Hanju felt that he was very noble. He silently changed the situation of the heavenly Tao and saved the immortal world and the heavens again and again. At this moment, Hanju saw two figures land. His eyes widened. They were Hanju and Tao Comprehension Sword. This Hanju wore a white robe and was handsome. His every move emitted a terrifying aura stronger than the Heavenly Emperor. Tao Comprehension Sword had a cold temperament. She walked beside Hanju and was not humble at all, unlike her current self in the Khanate cave abode. The two of them landed halfway up the mountain and turned to look at the world. Dao Comprehension Sword asked, "How long can your mystical power last?" The future Hanju smiled and said, "For eternity." He raised his arms and stretched. He smiled and said, "I used my mystical power to trap all living beings. I'm the heavenly Dao now. From now on, I will rule the heavenly Dao. All living beings will no longer face calamity unless I don't like them." His tone was filled with smugness. Hanju frowned. Was he so arrogant in the future? What was that mystical power? The stellar primordial world in the depths of his soul? Something was wrong. He couldn't be like this. This fellow isn't me? Hanju was extremely afraid. Could he have been possessed? Those sages are already gone, but I feel that it's not so easy to replace the heavenly Dao. Otherwise, why hasn't this happened in the past? Dao Comprehension Sword frowned. The future Hanju smiled disdainfully and said, "After the calamity ended, other than you, me, and the living beings I control in the immortal world, all the other characters are dead. Who can threaten us? The heavenly Dao is only a set of laws." Dao Comprehension Sword shook her head. The future Hanju smiled and said, "By the way, should we create a heavenly court and let you become the heavenly emperor?" Dao Comprehension Sword snorted. "It's meaningless. You better be careful of that fellow. He has a close relationship with the heavenly court. You slaughtered the heavenly court and his disciples. He will definitely not let you go. He must be hiding in the dark. He might come and find trouble with you at any time. I know him too well. He's afraid of death. He won't provoke the current me." The future Hanju shook his head and laughed. Hanju realized something and was about to continue watching when the scene shattered. When his consciousness returned to the Khanate cave abode, Hanju opened his eyes and frowned. Who was that dog? From their conversation, the heavenly court had been destroyed. Wasn't the fellow hiding in the dark Hanju himself? This fellow was indeed not him. Hanju was furious. Why was there another problem now? Where did this fake Hanju and Dao Comprehension Sword come from? Hanju thought silently, "I want to know who will become me and Dao Comprehension Sword. 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" Why did it double? Hanju frowned even more. He didn't like to be trapped by schemes. He wanted to see through everything. Continue.